maybe she should get a ticket. Who knows? Maybe what we ought to do is, nowadays they have these little crosses or Jewish stars or something for where there's a death. Maybe they should have bigger ones. Maybe they should have an accordionized car. Accordionized car is a smushed car that used to be 20 feet long. It's now 5 feet long because it got smushed. Put it up on a big pedestal. Scare people. I don't know. All I'm saying is that what we have in every private industry, like shirts and chalk and wristwatches and things like this, is competition. We don't have competition in roads. That's one of the reasons why we have so many fatalities in roads. Okay, now, what I would like to do now is to come up with a whole bunch of objections to my modest proposal that we privatize highways. Yeah.
You already know my highways are already privatized, and it can be proved as easily as all get up.
Highways are privatized?
Yes, they're very privatized. The court in 1999 in England has already said that every road in England is private.
Well, I don't care what they say. The point is that I can't start my own road. I can't build a highway from here to here and have my own rules. I can't have chicken races on my road.
What about logging roads? They're private roads.
Well, yeah, logging roads are private roads. I grant you that, but they're way out in the boonies, and very few people use them. And they're on private property. Look, there are private roads in Walmart and Costco.
There is private roads in Ontario. There's a major highway going across Toronto, but again, it is subject to the regulations.
That's right. That's the key. In the U.S., they have that too. They have some quasi-private roads where the government gives permission to a private guy, but they determine the rules of the road, and in 20 years, the private has to give it back to the public. That's public-private cooperativeness, and that's fascism. I'm talking about real private roads where the private road owner from 2 to 4 in the morning can have a chicken race. You know what a chicken race is? They ride in opposite directions. The first one to move loses. Well, this would get rid of a lot of people who we don't want on the roads. And, but no government is going to allow me to do that, right? So we don't have private roads. We have goddamn government roads, and government roads are killing us. Okay, so what are the criticisms of this? I can't go through all of them. There are many, many, but one of them is, well, you'd have to stop every 3 feet and put a penny in front of some little old lady's house, and traffic couldn't run. When I first started doing this research, I started reading grocery journals. There are such things as grocery journals, because the Universal Product Code, those bars, were first coming in then, and I was reading about that. Well, what you could do is put universal product codes under the underbody of a car, and as the car goes, you'd have things across the road that would be similar to what you have in the supermarkets and go blip, and then you send people a bill at the end of the month.
They have that on the bridge, one of the bridges.
They nowadays have it, what do they call it, fast lanes through the bridge or something?
They have transponders.
Transponders. But you know when they had transponders, no more than... more recently than 10 years ago, whereas the groceries had done it 40 years ago. See how slow the government is compared to them? And that's only for bridges. But if you had that for every road, you wouldn't have to put in a penny any time. And if you don't have a transponder, you still have to pay it the old-fashioned way, and it slows down traffic. Another way is, it's called the blockade. You drive out your driveway, and the guy says, oh, that'll be $1 million, please. Right? That's an objection to private roads, that the private road owner would make it impossible for you to come and go as you please. Because every time you came and went, you'd pay $1 million. This is called a blockade. So the idea here is, right now you have, here's your 4 roads, and here is your house. You live there, and anytime you get out onto road A, B, C, or D, well, D or C, you'd have to pay $1 million. Well, right now, those of you in the real estate business know that before you buy a house, the client has to get a thing called title insurance to make sure that the house you're buying is owned by the guy who's selling it to you, and not by somebody else who's going to come along later and say, hey, you don't own the house, I own the house. Well, in the era of private roads, we would have a thing called access insurance. Nobody's going to build a house here until they contractually obligate the road owner C and D to be reasonable, right? And road C and D would have every incentive to be reasonable because road C and D want people to have houses along their roads. They don't want it to be a logging road where nobody lives, because the more people that go there, the more valuable the land is, and the more they can charge for other houses and things like that. Okay, another argument is, well, you'd still need what they call in the U.S. eminent domain, or what they call in Canada expropriation. Because if I want to build a road from, where are we? We're now in Vancouver. And I want to build a road from Vancouver to Edmonton. Okay, and here is Vancouver, and here is Edmonton. And what is it, about 1,000 miles or so? 800 miles? Something like that. 800 miles. How many people own land from here to there? 100,000? I'm just picking a number, I don't know. And I start buying up land, and I start buying up land, and all of a sudden there's this guy, sort of like Cartman of South Park, and his famous thing is, screw you guys, screw you guys, screw you guys. That's his famous... people aren't into South Park. South Park is the best libertarian show. South Park is magnificent. When I grow up, I want to be like Cartman. He's my man. So you have Cartman here, and he says, screw you guys, you can't build here. Or he says, sure, you can have my land, $1 trillion, please. Right? So that's it. Now we need the government. The evil, vicious, depraved, violation of the non-aggression principle government, because we'd have a holdout. It's called the holdout problem in economics. Well, there are ways around the holdout, because you don't have to build it in Route 1. You could build it Route 2, Route 3, Route 4, Route 5. There are various ways you could build it, right? And this might be, I don't know, 15 miles. Look, if I'm going to build a 3-lane highway, all I need is, what's each lane width? 10 feet? And I'll need 50 feet in between, so that's 110 feet. And maybe another 20 feet on each side for a shoulder. So I need 150 feet. That's all I need. And let's say that this is 10 miles. So you can make a road to Edmonton a little bit off. I mean, you're not going up to Tuktoyaktuk or whatever it is, or Whitehorse. You don't have to go that far around, but you can make roads in many ways, right? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. So, if Cartman owns this land, well, you go here. Or what you do is you buy a thing called options. What are options? Options are, you go to this guy and you say, hey, I'd like to buy your land. Your land is worth $10,000 an acre, fine. I'll give you $1,000 if you give me an option to buy your land for $100,000 if I exercise it within a year. And I'll only exercise it if I can line up everybody on Route 5. Or I make an announcement, I want to build a road from Vancouver to Edmonton, and I tell the people along the routes, here are the 5 routes. The first one that gets options to me for every inch, I'll build it that way. And I'll pay more than what the land is worth for farmland. But wait, suppose Cartman owns all of this land, right? He owns all of this land. And these are the only feasible options. And now here I got into a big debate with a guy named Richard Epstein, who is, some people consider a libertarian. And on many issues, he is a libertarian. But not on this one. Here he's a road socialist. There's a lot of that going around. You have to watch out for that. So the question is, how can we get around Cartman, who owns 10 miles north-south and maybe a half mile wide?
A tunnel.
A tunnel or a bridge. Right, you got it. A tunnel or a bridge. Some of you might know my son Matthew. From his age 14 to his age 16, we discussed, he and I, nothing but this issue. And we got into a big debate with Gordon Tullock, another famous semi-free enterprise economist. And at the end of the day, I wrote up the whole thing. And now I had the problem, well, what do I do with my son Matthew? Do I say thanks to Matthew? Or do I make him co-author? What do I do? And I always lean backwards bend over backwards to give credit to people who cooperate with me, and I said I'll make him a co-author. He said, no, that's ridiculous. No one would ever believe it. That he was only 16. And yet we really discussed this, and I'll get into some of the discussions we had. And I said, well, I don't care what people will believe. I care about the truth. Did you help me on this or not? He said, oh, of course I did. So I made him a co-author.
Right on.
And we got into a debate with Epstein and Gordon Tullock, very eminent free enterprise economists. Okay, so what were the issues that Matthew and I came up with? Well, the argument has to do with, what the hell was that term? I can't think of it. The term when you own, here is the earth, and you own this area, and you own down ad colon. It's called ad colon. The ad colon doctrine says that if you own this area on the earth, you own, think of an ice cream cone, down to the core of the earth and up into the heavens.
Including all the stars.
Including all the stars, and down to the core of the earth. So therefore, you can't build a bridge over it, nor a tunnel under, because Cartman owns this area, and if I try to go under, he owns it, and if I try to go over, he owns that too. Did Cartman homestead anything 30,000 feet above his land? Of course not. The people that own the right to go there are airplane companies. Did Cartman own the land under his territory 3,000 feet down? No, of course not. So this is why homesteading is very important, despite what Pierre said about homesteading, because there are continuum problems. Homesteading is crucial. If you don't have homesteading...
Is continuum, is that just another word for a gray area?
Yeah, continuum means gray area. Roughly, that's a good translation. And Pierre's objection to homesteading is, well, there are gray areas. So what? There are gray areas. There are gray areas in everything. We have to have some principles. And one of the principles is you can only own land that you homesteaded. Okay, so now I'm going to build a bridge or a tunnel under. By the way, this also means you can have slant drilling for oil. Like if there are two people here that own land, A and B, and A digs like that and gets land under B's, he can do it as long as B didn't homestead that first. Okay, so let's suppose I'm going to build a tunnel underneath Cartman's land, and I'm going to build a tunnel 50 feet under. And Cartman gets wind of it, and he starts putting sticks down there 60 feet. This is the sort of stuff that Matthew and I came up with. Well, now he's foiled us again. As they say in the movies, Kaises, foiled again. But